How are you? Hi, Amy. Cal, how are you?
Piper and Arthur.
Arthur and Piper. Beautiful. Well, where are we? Welcome to Steve's Kitchen. We're in Tulum, Mexico. For those of you who wondered where we've been, I hope the sound's good. We've been here for a few days and we've been doing a bit of cooking. So I thought I'd share with you what we've been cooking. We've had quite a lot of aubergines, eggplants. What do you call these? What do you call them? Bloody awful, some people call them. But actually, let me tell you why they're not so awful. And some of you may love them. I mean, a lot of you maybe of Italian descent or,
yeah,
you know.
I love eggplant, looking forward to seeing this recipe.
Well, it's nothing, it's delicious, but we've got a kitchen, typical sort of, AirBnB style kitchen, cheap pans, made of old bits of tin, nothing overly special, tiny little worktop area. But then I thought, well, a lot of people don't have big sprawling kitchens, they do have little areas, and I thought today we'd show you what Michelle and I have been eating, well, what we had yesterday, so we're having it for a second day on the run, just to share the recipe with you guys, because we thought it was quite delicious. Got myself a cup of coffee here. How is everybody? Questions, throw them in. By the way, we are on a phone at the moment. I'm broadcasting from a phone that I bought probably about 7 years ago, because my phone has completely given up. And this was a backup phone that we brought with us. It's a really old phone, old Samsung phone from back in the day, but it's working, which is the main thing. So I hope the picture's fairly good. The beauty of this one, we can plug the sound in. So I've got to keep the power on because the battery's a little bit iffy. I'm not seeing any questions lying up,
No.
Michelle. Let's just do a sound check. Check that people can actually see. Maybe you can just go in on and check that it's all, because I did get a different. Anybody watching could just give me a quick.
Picture's good. I can check the sound. If I can
Hello.
turn it down.
No, the sound's good. Then you turn that down, Michelle. So say hello, anybody that's in there, just to confirm that I'm not just talking. Cal, all good? Beautiful, man. So, who likes your eggplant, your aubergine? Or who finds them a little bit bland? I know a lot of people think aubergines, courgettes, marrows, all these sort of, what would we call them? Cal, what would you call them? You're a gardener. I mean, all these sort of fairly easy to grow crops that you often end up with a lot of. When we used to have our little farm in France, we'd often end up with a lot more of this stuff than we could possibly cope with. So, and then a lot of people find them quite bland. When we were staying in Sicilia, in Italy, we noticed the Italians used these a lot in their cooking. And I learned a few tips and tricks from some of my Italian friends, and I'm going to share them with you today. Some of you will know it. But there is a little twist to this dish, which is going to make it from, I think, a fairly bland and in needing of something vegetable into something that's really quite delicious.
Arthur says hello from Amish country, and Cal the gardener says, I like growing it, but not eating it.
Exactly, Cal. When we used to grow courgettes, aubergines, marrows, pumpkins for that matter, they would come. So you know what they're like in the gardens. Once the sort of like the tendrils go out, you end up with sort of bumper harvests of these things. And come sort of winter time when you're getting more pumpkins and you can sort of throw something at. Anyway, once you get to that time of year where they're coming in thick and fast, you wonder what to do with them, and you end up giving them out to neighbours and things. And they can be a fairly plain, uninteresting vegetable. However, if you go to parts of the Mediterranean, Greece, Turkey, Italy, they use a lot of these. I'm not sure what the generic term is for this sort of vegetable. They use it a lot in the cooking. You'll see it in what's the famous dish that uses the moussaka? Yeah, moussaka uses it. I'm not a big fan of moussaka actually. It can be quite often a very bland dish. But I've had it in in Turkey before, and I've had it in places where people know how to prepare it and get the flavour into it. Anyway, we're going to be doing that. Michelle and I.
So Ella Miller says hello from Arizona.
G'day Ella, how are you?
And Cal says, I'm growing some yellow courgettes this year. At first for me, they look good. Wonder how they all taste. Yeah, got loads from one plant.
Yeah. We used to sit there and wait for the bulbs to come on these things, and then suddenly they'd come, and you just have so many of the darn things, and you were using them in stews, and you were using them to sort of in fry-ups and stir-fries, but they were quite often the one thing in the dish that sort of detracted, in my opinion, from the flavour of the dish. This instance, what we're cooking today, is going to switch that frown upside down. Now I'll just turn the camera around so you guys can see Michelle and say hello. Wait, not round yet, there she is.
Hi everyone.
There you are.
Hi Petri.
And I'll give you a quick little tour of our lovely little apartment, our little paradise apartment here. Let me just see if I can get it off the tripod. So we have got, there's Michelle, we've got this lovely little outside area here. Will you look at that? How beautiful is that? Hammock, little sitting area, and a pool with other people in this particular complex. And oh, move nice and slowly, all right, nice and slowly. It's a little bit too fast. We've got a beautiful bedroom and a small kitchen. So we're quite stoked, really. It's really quite nice. Now I'm going to try to keep it nice and slow so you can all see it. Michelle, you're right.
And you've got a little bathroom.
We've got a little bathroom. It's behind me. There's a door behind. You can see there. So let's turn that around. So that is the apartment tour. And that's about all you're going to see of it, unless anyone asks about it a little bit later on. Plug the power in. So what I'm going to do, hello everybody, let's see if I can get that plugged in. It's one of those old school phones as you, I've not been used to not using the USB-C where you can just plug it in. It's the old USB-C micro where you've got to make sure it's the right way. So we've got, as often is the case when I'm cooking on the road, very basic kitchen, very basic knives, some little red onions sliced up, you know, a blunt, fairly blunt knife, and pan. But it will show you that it isn't hard for us to prepare something delicious in a kitchen we're not familiar in. So here is my pan. I've gone.
Eddie. Sorry. Hi, Eddie.
G'day, Eddie. How are you? I'm putting a little bit of red onion in a pan. I'm going to add some olive oil. Is that all showing nicely, Michelle? Yeah. A little olive oil. Probably, now, eggplants absorb a lot of oil. I actually like to use butter generally. We haven't got any butter with us today, so I'm going to be using olive oil, which is just as delicious, but the eggplant will soak up a lot of the oils. Does that make it unhealthy? Not really. I mean, if you're using good quality salted butters or good quality olive oils, you need a little bit of fat in your food to give some sort of, you know, it affects with your tongue and makes the flavors good. So you can't do this without using oil, and it's a completely vegetarian dish. So, you know, we take the pluses with the minus. I mean, for me, the olive oil is going to make it.
Arthur says Steve's shirt coordinates nicely with the countertop. Yes, that was not on purpose. And Eddie says enjoying a bit of rain today. Good excuse to be lazy though. So
I'm putting a fair bit of olive oil, more than you'd normally use to fry a few onions in. Is the picture okay there, Michelle? I can't see. I'm also, Michelle's not a big fan of chili. I'm going to put, I think it's a little poblano chili, a little hot chili. I'm going to use just about an inch of chili, and I need my readers on to see the chili, make sure I'm doing it right. So I'm going to slice the chili up. I'm going to take the seeds out in this instance because I want limited heat.
They are quite fiery, those chilies.
They're really quite a hot chili, these ones. We are in Mexico, as you know. They do like their heat, and I like my heat. I would probably be using jalapenos, which are a much softer chili, but I'm just going to use this little blunt knife, and I want to dice this chili up tiny, tiny, tiny little pieces, because I want the heat to disperse through the dish, but I don't want it to be too hot. And I've got this just about right for Michelle. She doesn't overly like her chilies or hot food, but it just leaves a little bit of heat on the tongue, on the lips, and I think you like it, don't you, Michelle?
Yeah, no, just move the pan this way a little bit because we're seeing too much of the pan.
You come round. You can.
I was just going to move the pan rather than the...
Show me what you mean.
Just move that there.
Okay, that's all right. Because I can't see it. I've got to get down on all fours to look up at that. So, a little bit of chili and a little bit of seasoning. Now, we have here, all in one, salt and pepper. So it's actually, this has got salt and pepper in this little pepper shaker, which I think is quite a good thing. It means that we can travel with just one little container. And let's get that roughly central for you.
Because that's the thing, we don't want to buy lots and lots of spices and salt.
We don't, but I do want quite a bit of salt and pepper in here. So I'm going to, now I think this is a great little idea to add salt and pepper into your grinder. But there's one caveat to that, and I'll explain it to you in a second. So let me get lots in there, lots of seasoning, and I'm going to be putting in more later on. If you've got a pepper mill and you add some nice rock sea salt in there as well, it makes a great combination salt and pepper sprinkler, but do make sure it's either got a plastic, if you look at a lot of salt and pepper mills, you'll see one quite often has a nylon or plastic or ceramic base to it, that in here, the grinder itself, the mill. And one will quite often have a metal. The metal is for your pepper. The ceramic is for your salt. If you put your salt into the metal one, you'll wreck it. It will rust out so quickly, you'll lose it within 6 months. So you're supposed to put your salt in a plastic or ceramic one. So if you decide to combine these, make sure that you put the salt and pepper into this ceramic one, not into the metal one, even if it's chrome. Ali? So let me just turn this camera around so I can get this down here on the stovetop. So we're just going to lean in, pop the gas on, and I'm just going to sweat those onions down a little bit. I'm not really going to fry them to caramelize them. I'm just going to sweat them down to they're a little translucent and let the oil flavor up from the onions and the chili. Now, we haven't got any garlic, have we, Michelle? Or we do have?
Okay. We've been using the garlic.
Okay, I'll put garlic because it makes life easier and I haven't got to go. But you could add a tiny bit of garlic in there, but don't garlic. We have got a fish slice, but I'm going to use this a little wooden spoon just to sort of mix that through. Few seconds. Now, how is everybody? Turn that back round, get round to me.
So Eddie's got rain. Anybody else got rain? We've not got rain today, have we? We've had a lot.
We've had rain every day since we've been here. Pretty heavy rain in Tulum. These live streams are not the best way to make a video, are they? Because you're going to get my back. So I'm frying that. Oh, little chili hitting the back of the throat. I'm frying that not too much. Taking that off the heat now. Turn the gas right down. I'll pop that back up. Yes, I'm leaving the gas on because I don't want to keep lighting it over and over. Now, our eggplant. Let's nip the end off the eggplant, the green end. There is nothing you need to do to this eggplant. You don't need to peel it, you don't need to de-seed it, you don't need to do anything other than dice it up. When we were having aubergine or eggplant in Italy, Often for the pasta dishes, they would fry this in some oil until it was caramelized. So the surface of the aubergine itself was brown and golden brown. And they would add a little salt, sometimes a little salt and pepper. And by doing that, you intensify the flavor that is in the aubergine. So if you just put this straight into a stew, it'll just come out like sort of something a little unpleasant, like wallpaper glue. But if you actually, let's just slice, so if we slice, let me just show you. Take a piece of aubergine, slice it about yay thick, about quarter of an inch. And then I'm just going to skin on, slice this up, and dice it into cubes. Is the sound all right, everybody? Like so. So you end up with little blocks of aubergine. Obviously, this is the end, so it'll be all a bit random. Pop that back on the heat, slide it into my pan, and continue to dice up the aubergine. So I'm just scoring it down about quarter of an inch, half an inch, eighth of an inch, 7/16 of a quarter, 14 millimeters. Who knows? I'm just dicing it up.
That's why it's called dicing it up.
And now I'll turn that heat back up, if I can find it. Okay, there we go. And I want to just flatten the aubergines in the pan so they're getting as much of the surface area onto the pan to get that caramelization on there. And by doing that, we're going to add a lot more flavor to this aubergine. Michelle tells me off because I say aubergine, and she tells me I should be saying aubergine. So should we just call it an eggplant? I don't know anymore whether we call it eggplant or aubergine, you know, whether historically, from a sort of Australian, British background, I don't know whether we call it what do the Americans call it? I think you guys call it eggplant.
Ian Mint says hello, Steve.
Good day, Ian. So just get and dice this up. Nothing.
Eggplant works for me.
Eggplant, okay. The history of the eggplant is interesting because I think it comes from sort of Indochina originally. So it would have been, you'll see a lot of these sort of, what are the little pea aubergines and things? So you get a lot of aubergine variations around India, and they go into a lot of the curries. It makes great food if you're doing vegetarian cooking. So
Sue John says, hi, you two, love from the UK.
Good day, Sue. Hopefully that. So I want to get as much heat up as high as possible. Just check that's up high. And as much colour on the aubergine as possible. Now I will add into there a little more olive oil because you won't get colour unless you've got some fats in there. And when we made it the other day, I used a bit of butter. Butter's really not easy to find in Mexico. It's not a common ingredient. You can get it in some supermarkets, but you know how we have it back home, it's great big blocks of butter. You'll get like tiny little sticks of butter and you'll find them really difficult to locate unless you go to an American style supermarket here. So I'm going to let that fry. Bear with me. I know it sounds boring at the moment. You really do have to cook them. See, any of that colour, they look like apples, pieces of apples at the moment. Any of that sort of pale colour, I want to be got rid of. Can we get the light on in here, Michelle? I think it's a little dark. The sun is starting to go down.
It's like when you cook meat, isn't it? The caramelise that side.
It's all the flavour, isn't it, Michelle? So, whilst that is cooking on the side there.
You're getting away from the heat.
It's still so hot here.
It's warm.
How are you all? Michelle and I have been good. Just going to grab my water.
We've just finished the coffee. Did you get your water? There you go. Drinking lots of water, so that's good. Okay, Rhapsody of Joy says, Ola, I do love aubergines very much, one of the most underrated veggies out there.
Really,
They're growing on us.
Well, I've liked them ever since we were in Sicily. I mean, I must admit.
True. You've got to have a way of cooking them that you like. Some people like them different ways. I actually quite like them when they're cooked on the barbecue as well.
Yeah, they do really well.
It's a big slice, a big slab.
Yeah, you can have them almost like a steak on a barbecue, which can be quite nice. And they do make good burgers as well. You can kind of sort of put them into a roll with some cheese. So you treat it a little bit like a meat, but with a fraction of the flavour.
So feral lunch lady says in the supers like Soriano, etc. Also coconut oil, Mexican coconut oil tastes great.
I didn't understand that.
There's lots of butters.
Oh, butters. I heard buffers.
Sorry, butters.
Yeah. So can you say it again now? I understood it's butter.
Butters in the supermarkets. Also coconut oil, Mexican coconut oil.
No, there's not lots of butters in the supermarkets. If you're in Cancun, or if you're in one of these very heavily Americanized sort of suburbs of Mexico, you will find a lot of butter. And you can, as long as you go into Walmart or one of the bigger supermarket chains, yes, you'll find it. It's not absolutely, but if you just rock down to the corner street here and go to a small, many thousands of little corner shops that you'll find all over, you'll rarely find butter. It's just not something they tend to use so much. So yes, you can. With the event of the big supermarkets, none of them are going to open and not sell butter. But it's not a common ingredient in Mexican cooking. They use a lot more sort of fats and oils and pork fat.
I like your recipes and travel. I have two questions. One, will you be doing more recipes when you arrive home? And two, have you ever been to the UAE?
I haven't been to the UAE. I've been to that part of the world before, but I haven't been to the United Arab Emirates. So I'd love to go. Are you from there? So you take a little look in here now. You can see that the aubergine has started to get quite caramelized, a lot of brown color on there. That is all flavor, but you'll also see the aubergine itself has started to soften up slightly. So I don't know if that's showing up particularly well, Michelle. This isn't the same as filming an episode of Steve's Kitchen with the camera and you can sort of bring it in close. I can't even see what you guys are seeing. So
Piper says, I love adding eggplant to homemade hummus.
Yes, works well. I mean, a lot of Mediterranean foods use eggplant. What is the baba ganoush is mainly an eggplant. It's one of my least favourite. To be honest, chili coming off that now. So the heat is off. We're no longer heating that. That is it. We're pretty much prepared. I'm not going to add much more to that. Then maybe I might give it a little taste and see if it needs a little more salt and pepper.
Eddie said everything is looking fine thus far, guys. That's good. Feral lunch lady says, I'm in Porto Vallarta, Gringo Heaven.
Exactly. Well,
and Ian says, I'm actually from Georgia in the United States.
everywhere where you're here in Tulum, I mean, let me tell you about Tulum. Tulum is lovely, but my lord, there are more Americans and foreign tourists here than there are probably locals. It's interesting. It's interesting, but I have to say, a lot of Americans that I meet here, this is about as far as they've travelled quite often abroad. And you are going to, we're going to peel this, won't we, Michelle?
We will. We've decided that's the best way.
I'm going to go with peeling the mango and taking the cheeks off that way. So if we go out on the streets here, you're going to get, when I film it, if I take you out on the streets, you're going to say, oh, it looks beautiful, the colours. But actually, if you're on the streets, it's quite dirty and most of the pavements are falling to pieces and it's a bit mucky. And you know, I've always said I try to be as honest as I can be on our travel logs and say it as it is.
When it rains, the water does stay there, doesn't it?
The water stays on the streets for days. It is beautiful, and the Mexican people are absolutely delightful. I mean, some of the loveliest people in the world. But I'm going to be honest, I still prefer Asia. I think to this part of Mexico. Now, this is quite different to, say, Oaxaca or Mexico City, which I think is a beautiful city, one of my favorite cities in the world, to be honest, Mexico City. I'm just peeling a mango, by the way. You might wonder what on earth I'm doing and what mangoes have got to do with this dish.
Good morning, Mona. How are you?
Hey, Mona. But it's like a lot of Mediterranean countries. You'll find this a little bit when you travel around parts of Italy. Particularly when we used to travel up in some of the smaller cities around the Italian provinces, you'd find towns and you'd wonder, when are they ever going to fix anything? You know, when are they ever going to fix anything? Nothing seems to work. It's always, the roads are always crumbling, everything's falling to pieces. Well, Mexico is a little bit like that too. I'm telling you it as it is. I'm not one of these sort of young kids that are going to sort of like make everything sort of soft lighting and if I had the choice, I wouldn't really choose somewhere like Tulum to stay any length of time. I think it's interesting, but if you want this sort of holidays, there are better places. There are much better places in the world. So much better. Now I'm going to dice up.
Just before you get into that, Anne says, hello, Steve and Michelle. I was going to bed and saw you live.
Good day, Anne.
And I also want to say thank you to Pamela Liccardo, who sent us a PayPal gift.
Yes, thank you, Pamela Liccardo. Pamela I sent us a PayPal donation through, which was really sweet. Just came through out of the blue about a week, 10 days ago, and it was much appreciated. Thank you. We used it, Michelle and I. We had a meal out in Merida. And yes, thank you. So, can we see everything? Why am I?
Because you're better at it than me, because I never get it right. No, I can't see it.
All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to step back a bit so that doesn't end up just being straight in your face. I'm going to turn this round. No, you come back. You are doing what I expect you to do. I'm going to turn the camera around.
He wants me to work too.
And you can film from there.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Michelle's in charge of the camera. We're going to get better shots. So this will turn like that, Michelle, very easily.
Yeah, I'm just going to move it a little bit so we can get to see that.
So we've got our eggplant and we've got our diced mango. I am going to be putting the mango just laying on top of that warm eggplant, like so. I've got another cheeky mango here. Cheeky mango. I'm going to slice it close to the pip. These are big pips in these mangoes. Get that on there. I'll put this piece aside because I'll myself with that. I'll actually be nibbling on that later on.
Sally says hi, and Anne says, what's the best, sorry, I said that again, what's the best food markets you've been to in all your tours?
Oh, I'm going to probably say it's a toss-up between, come up to me, Michelle, it's a toss-up between the wonderful markets that we see often in Thailand and to a lesser degree, but Malaysia.
The Indian markets are good too.
Yeah, but they're not my favourite market. I think my favourite markets of all have been the Chinese markets.
Yes.
You know, the wet markets in Wuhan, by far my favourite markets of all. Now, come back up to me.
You know, to show them that.
You know I'm being, come back up to me.
Well,
you know I'm being cheeky. Literally, in Lijiang, if you look at the Dali, Lijiang, those markets were so authentic, a little bit like the Indian markets, but I found the Chinese markets, particularly in Lijiang and Dali, Kunming, were really clean as well, which was really quite nice. You know, they were some of the cleaner markets. Now, some of the Indian markets, okay, I'll show you another way to come down here and I'll show. So why do I keep peeling the cheek off before I peel the mango? You can see there's a lot.
Big pip, isn't it?
There's a lot of pips in these. The other way you can do this is just to score, all of you know this, just score the mango down, just let the knife touch the back of the skin, and you can make a little hedgehog like that and just slice these cubes off. That's another way you could do it. It's not as pretty.
Prettier cubes, don't you?
You get better cubes if you do the other way.
Quite fast,
but this is the quickest way to do it. And if I was just doing it for Michelle and I'd probably do it that way because you've got most of the meat off there. The only difference is the cubes are a little bit bitty and ugly looking. So this time, no, I'm going to do the second one the same way.
Yeah, it's quicker.
Wow, that's a big pip. These aren't like the Thai mangoes where you get virtually all meat.
Don't worry, we're not going to waste that mango on the round.
Oh no, we're not.
Normally that would go into the dish.
That's my favourite. That's my favourite thing is to actually gnaw the meat. I think I've taken a lump of pip with me there, Michelle.
Have you? Your super sharp knife?
Absolutely. Over there.
Okay. They're big mangoes, these.
Just.
So Kev says, hi Steve, keep up the good work.
Thank you. We've just had the room clean, so I don't know where anything is. Just 1 minute. Just turn that back round to me, Michelle. I prefer to see myself. I can.
Oh, okay, I've just turned it round to me. Hey, everybody. Yeah, it was only while you were doing that mango.
I am now going to dice up for your. Oh Lord, this is not good working area. I got my glasses virtually being melted by the saucepan. The next thing I want to add in there is some diced tomato. So I'm just going to take a tomato. I do it much like I do an onion. I'll just slice the tomato from the side, and then I'll use the heel of this knife, because it's the only bit of the knife that's sharp, just to score into the surface of the tomato. And so I've got these little tendrils, these little fingers here, and then I can just dice the tomato. And this is the way I would make a salsa. If I was making a lovely little salsa with onions and tomato, when you get to the end, you can just take this last little bit, dice it up, nice and small.
Talking of salsa, we've got like a mango in a guacamole, don't we? We've done that before.
Mango and guacamole works really well, yes. So again, take the tomato on the side. We slice it almost to the end. You can end up with these little fans in the tomato. If you've got a sharp knife, you can just then cut it, but my knife's quite blunt, but the heel, just at the end of this knife's got still a decent edge on it. So I'll just pull it along till I get the fingers, and then just dice this tomato up. Tomato. You say tomato, I say tomato. Different linguistic pronunciations around the world. You get to the stage where you're not even sure how you pronounce things anymore.
Oh, we should just mention that little board is ours, isn't it?
That's our little board.
No board in here.
There's no chopping board in this place. But we've got this nice little chopping board which we use for all sorts of things, cutting up a bread roll. I've got some cilantro, or, as we like to call it, coriander. I've started to call it cilantro because we're this side of the world.
Yes.
We're the American side of the world, where they do tend to call this cilantro, which is from the Spanish word for coriander. Now, the interesting thing is, I do think the Americans tend to call the seeds coriander. So, I think I've mentioned this before. I do find it a little bit odd that they call the seed coriander, but the plant, so the seeds that come from the coriander plant, but the actual loose greens, they call it cilantro, which is Spanish for coriander. So I think that comes from the sort of the Mexican Hispanic sort of word for, so they've adopted a slightly different terminology for the same thing. So here we go.
Anne says, heading to bed, enjoy your...
And before you do, look, we've got that diced up pineapple in there. We've got that diced up mango in there. We've got those lovely little bits of red tomato, and they are just warming. I don't want to actually continue to heat that, but they are just warming in the hot oil and the eggplant. So they're warm through. So this is like a slightly warm salad. And can you see, look at the colours in there. It's absolutely gorgeous.
So Rhapsody of Joy said, if you could choose one favourite dish, what would it be, Steve? You too. House chicken dish, isn't it?
That is an impossible question. I can't answer it because I love food so much.
Depends what you fancy at the time, isn't it?
So now we've got this dish which has got the saltiness and the caramelized eggplant there. We've got diced up mangoes. Now you could do this with any fruit. I just think the mangoes here are in season at the moment, and you end up with this lovely little salad. Look at that. And I'll ask Michelle if she can find me. Oh no, I've got a spoon. I'll use a spoon just to give this a try. Oh, will you look at that? That is just warm. The coriander in there, if you like coriander.
Mona says yum, Feral Lunch Lady says nice.
The saltiness and the caramelized eggplant that's in there. That is it. We had this, a little bit of heat from the chili, but nothing too much. We've had this three times now with this one, and it's one of the nicest little salads. We like it, don't we, Michelle?
Do, yeah. Little...
Back me up here.
Yeah, no, it's really good. We've got a little veggie shop, haven't we? Just off the road. And no, it's really nice.
Absolutely yummy.
So Eagle Anon says, hey Steve, hey Michelle, caught you guys live finally. And Kev says that looks really good.
It is.
Smells good too.
I'll come round here and have a chat with you. Michelle can go and...
Serve my own?
No, I can serve it for you.
No, you get round here and talk to everybody.
Okay, I'll have a chat with you. Isn't that bad? I cooked it up, I served myself first, I sent Michelle to serve her own.
That's all right.
But then she can decide exactly how much she wants. This is so filling, it tastes almost as if it's got meat in it, but it hasn't, you know? I'll have a bit more.
I'm deciding whether I want it more or not.
Oh, I left a lot in the bowl for Michelle. That makes easily, so that's one medium-sized eggplant, 2 mangoes, 1 tomato,
A bit of onion.
A little bit of chili, and a little bit of coriander. You could use parsley. You could use... Yeah, the first time we used parsley because we accidentally bought parsley, thinking it was coriander, but it was still delicious.
See, I've got my plate too. A little space here. So Mona says, thumbs up for our beautiful travelling duo, and Eagle Anon said, oh man, that sounds great.
It's a really good dish. I highly recommend it. If you can't get mangoes at the moment, if they're not in season where you are, but they are in season in many parts of the world, but if you can't get mangoes, you could do this with pineapple, you could do this with apple, you could do this with melon, any fruit, not watermelon. I wouldn't do it with watermelon, but you could do it with the honeydew melon, the cantaloupe. Cantaloupe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we said even like if you could put a few raisins in here, maybe
a few raisins, a few nuts, maybe some... we can't get this sort of stuff where we are at the moment. I would probably add a handful of raisins in there and maybe some pine nuts as well, just to sort of give it a little bit of a nutty flavour.
Eddie says, looks yummy, and Eagle Anon says healthy too.
It is super healthy.
No carbs?
No carbohydrates, a little bit of oil in there, probably 3 or 4 tablespoons of oil. But you need oil in your diet. Don't shirk away. Don't shy away from any oil at all. The aubergine will actually absorb a lot of oil, so you expect it to have that oil in there. But it is so delicious, and I like it with the olive oil, but I preferred it with a little bit of butter in there.
Butter, yeah.
The nice thing about the butter was that butter, when you fry eggplant in butter, is the butter will burn or brown slightly, which gives an extra sort of layer of flavour as well. It's good.
Yeah, and
have you tried it?
Yes, I did over there. Eagle and On says pine nuts are fabulous.
Just some pine nuts.
We
even
also made
some
couscous with pine nuts. That would be lovely.
Yeah,
Delicious.
even some sesame seeds. Just a little toasted sesame seed in there. You can do anything, but that's the basis of a very healthy and actually extremely satiating plate of food. We'll eat this and we probably won't eat again today.
No.
Unless we pick up some crisps or chips or some
well,
rubbish.
These are little, what they call deli bars.
Mm.
And there's
Basically a fig roll.
Yeah, this is a strawberry one. It's got oats and peanuts and things on the outside.
That's a little sort of health bar snack that we picked up in the grocery store because they had them there. But having said that, a dish like this, the full dish for us here in Mexico, the cost of making a dish like this is probably less than sort of 50, 60 pesos, which is, what would we say, that's about $5 or $3?
$5.50 is
about $3. About $3.
$2.50 US.
Yeah.
It's about half.
Whereas two of those bars, those little bars, will cost you the same. So two of those little fig roll bars, we had one each that are just made about the same price. So
He said we'll make some churros, love.
Get some questions going. I'm just going to get myself a coffee.
So Feral Lunch Lady says, go to La Corna if you're in a town that has one, a Mexican version of Whole Foods. Haven't seen one of those.
How's it spelled?
La Corna, as in La Corna.
La Esquita?
Yeah. I haven't seen that. Probably have walked past it and not noticed.
Well, there is a health food store in here, but the thing is, what we try to do when we come to a country like Mexico is we try not to shop, if we can, in places that look like they've been imported. So we try to shop, if we can, not in Walmart and big American sort of shopping stores, but we try to go into the little mum and pop stores. So for example, where we bought all the ingredients for this is a little hole in the wall greengrocers that's about a few hundred meters from where we are, and you can just go in there and sort of pick up all, no mask wearing, none of the locals there are wearing masks. It's just old school. You just go in there, you pick up all your vegetables.
And having deliveries every day, and we've seen the big
trucks. Yeah, it's all super fresh. The people are super friendly. Don't speak a word of English, which is great. And so you have to learn and try to get involved with the local culture. That's the way we like to shop.
Or as Eagle and On says, all the open air markets. We love
open air markets.
We haven't seen one here.
Yes, we have.
Not in Tulum.
Oh, in Tulum, no.
Probably we've seen lots.
There's loads.
Yeah.
There's some great open markets, wet markets, as you would call them. There's a video we made just recently in the wet market. We walked around it outside our hotel, Amber Rooms. Campeche.
Been so many places. Losing track. But yes, that's that couple of videos ago. What city are you in now?
We are in Tulum. Tulum is a super touristic town. It's nice, and I'm going to make a video of it. But there's, again, it's like pretty much everywhere around this coast of Mexico is so heavily influenced by US culture, by the tipping culture, and I mean tipping, everybody's always got their hand out asking for money, and that is not normal in Mexico. It certainly isn't if you go away from these sort of Anglo-American centric sort of places, people are just happy to sort of invite you into their restaurants and eat and enjoy, and they want a fair price for the fare. Here it's all about, it's all about money. I'll be honest, it's all about money, but it's great.
Yeah, a lot of the stores are in American dollars. They've got
They're
exchange rate
US dollars everywhere. They'll if you ask the price, they'll often answer the price in US dollars. It is about as far from real Mexico as you can get, but it's still nice in its own way. I've quite enjoyed being here. Would I come back to this area again? No, not in a million years. It's unless we were invited for a particular. If you've seen it once, you've seen it. You've seen it. I get that there are some friends of mine, some American friends of mine, particularly people that we've met, that come back here year after year after year after year after year, which people do in Australia and in Europe as well. Familiarity, the fact that you can pretty much come with your US dollars in your pocket and spend them and still have the same tipping culture and the same foods and things. And a lot of the foods are westernized in many ways. So you get the pizzas and a lot of pizza stores, a lot of pasta stores, a lot of Italian stores. So, yeah.
Yeah, nothing wrong with it. It's
wrong with it at all.
We've enjoyed our visit here, but no, definitely probably wouldn't come back.
But we've met good people here.
We have.
So many good people. It's the same with everywhere you go in the world.
The Eagle and Nonsense.
It's all about
San Diego. So
do we, but this is a suburb of San Diego called Tulum, Mexico. I mean, it isn't much different, except for the fact that all the pavements are rotting, there are buildings that look like they've been abandoned for sort of 500 years plus, particularly when you get into towns like Merida and Campeche and places like that. There is a lot. It's pretty, right? But I've always said I can't do the sort of soft focus videos that a lot of travelers do. I've had a little look at some videos, even some of my good friends here on YouTube that have filmed in Tulum, and they make it look so lovely. And it is nice. You can walk down, you can sort of film Tulum, you can kind of have the sort of hippie shops. There's lots of dream catchers everywhere. There's lots of people sort of wandering around in their bikinis and looking very sort of sun-blushed and things.
It's a very hippie town.
It's a very hippie town.
Yes.
But in reality, you are here then for a 2-week holiday to just enjoy yourself, eat good food, go to the beach. The beaches here are chock-a-block with people. I mean, they're absolutely, they are beautiful beaches, but they're chock-a-block full of people.
So Eddie said I would love an enchilada about now.
Yep, me too.
And Eagle and On says, so where are you two headed next?
We're just checking out this coast of Quintana Roo. We're checking out this region, doing a few different towns. We've just created a video from the last town we were in, which is Valladolid. Valladolid was kind of cool. Again, though, it's heavily influenced. I don't want to keep sort of banging on about this, but this is the equivalent of sort of Goa in India, as far as sort of like tourists are concerned. Places like Goa, places like Torremolinos and in Spain, Marbella and things where all the Brits and
I think if you arrive in this area and you were dropped into a town and then dropped into another town, you wouldn't necessarily know where you are because they're all quite similar.
Well, unless apart from the signs that tell you where they're all quite similar.
They're cut out signs.
They're all very similar and much of a muchness. They're all the weather's really hot. There's not. I mean, you'll get a lot of taco makers, people making tacos, but here in Tulum is known for being particularly expensive for expats. So we've noticed our costs are a lot higher here in Tulum. Not massively so, they're still relatively cheap compared to the USA and Australia, but they're not super inexpensive. And you will pay, for example, you might have tacos on the street in Mexico City and pay anywhere from sort of 10 pesos for, sometimes as little as 8 pesos for a taco. Here, if you go to central Tulum, you might pay 20 to 30 pesos for that same taco, so sort of 2 to 3 times. Now there are places here in Tulum where you can still get really nice tacos for 12, 13 pesos is as cheap as I've seen them. You can still get street vendors supplying stuff to the local people that are here, but a lot of it is hot dogs and hamburguesas. Hot dogs and hamburguesas are not Mexican food, but they are one of the most common foods in this region. I mean, I would say more hamburguesa, and more hot dogs are consumed here than anywhere I've been.
They're always the most popular food cart, aren't they?
They're always the most popular. And it basically is a bread roll full of fried stuff. You know, it is a bread roll full of fried stuff. So consequently, the levels of health we've seen in this area, now that's a debate for another day, but the levels of health go from the vegan goddesses walking up and down in their skimpy little bikinis and bronze body to the local society who are just, can I say it, so unfit, so unhealthy, so physically because there's a lot of sweet, sugary drinks drunk here, and a lot of heavy breaded and fatty foods. So, am I getting off topic?
That's okay. I think that's interesting. I don't know about you guys. Anyway, throw us some questions. He'll answer your questions.
I will. Are you disconnected?
No, it just keeps doing that. It comes back.
Okay. Well, you won't see the questions if it's...
Yeah, disconnected. So yes, I am disconnected at the moment.
Okay, just check on the...
It's just coming in and coming back.
Are we still on? Say hello to Michelle just to sort of double check whether Michelle's got a connection.
Yeah, my connection's just come back.
Good out.
So Eddie said, I've almost eliminated sodas from my diet, so much healthier now. I know, we were talking about this the other day. I mean, Coke, you have a lot of Coke here when you're going to a restaurant.
And I like the Coke.
I know, but it fills me up.
Yeah,
so I don't want to have a Coke. They're always the big Coke.
It's always big.
I don't want Coke.
We went into a restaurant the other day and had a Cubana sandwich, which was basically, again, another big bread sandwich full of fried food, and it was delicious. Lots of mayonnaise. We had one, Michelle and I shared, it was cut in half. We sound like we're sort of so innocent, like we don't eat much, but we've eaten way too much. I put a lot of weight on here. But then we had a Cubana sandwich cut in half. It was still the size of a doorstep. A young man came in and sat down opposite us and had a Cubana sandwich by himself. It was huge. I mean, it was like the size of a clown's shoe. Sat on his plate. He then ordered a horchata, which is a sweet drink. It sounds delicious, and Michelle does like it, but basically
really
it's just sugar, absolute sugar with a little bit of rice milk in it. And he had a litre, I kid you not, a litre tub of horchata, and he drunk that horchata within 5 to 10 minutes. That had completely gone, and he ate the sandwich and he left. And he was a big lad. And this is the only thing I would say, that the diet here is not so great, but there are a lot of Europeans in Tulum, a lot of Europeans and a lot of Americans here that are super skinny, not the ones on holiday, that's a different thing altogether, but the ones that live here, because they're kind of eating very consciously. But the local diet is not so great. Now, you'll hear in the background here a little sort of, we've got one of those little igloos outside in the garden. I can see smoke. You can probably see it out this window here, white smoke rising. And they're doing one of those shamanic sort of rituals where everybody goes inside the igloo and gets sort of smoked like a kipper. They all come out looking like kippers. But there's loads of...
Well, Feral Lunch Lady says they fry everything in corn oil. If they used lard or coconut oil, everyone would lose weight.
No, see, lard and coconut oil is if they fried less, people would lose weight.
There's a lot of bread and fried food here, isn't there? That's what we find.
A lot, yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised if we looked statistically at, I don't know, this region of Mexico, but I seem to remember it being much the same in Oaxaca and Mexico City as well, that there's a real sort of dietary deficiency issue in this area. A lot less and not enough vegetables and
because if you haven't got a kitchen or somewhere where you can prepare your own food and you're having to eat out for every meal that you have, it's a lot of bread, a lot of meat, and very little
There's
vegetables.
no options. It's literally meat and bread. Michelle and I remember now 5 years ago when we were in Mexico that we put a lot of weight on in Mexico because it was very hard. Now, I'm not saying that you can't eat completely vegan, vegetarian, and just, you know, basically live off a lettuce leaf and a bottle of mountain spring water every day. You can, but this is not what the locals are living off of. There's nobody working a hard day's work here in Mexico that are sort of nibbling on a bit of iceberg lettuce and mineral water. And what's available when you go into the OXXOs here, which are the 7-Eleven equivalents, is a lot of really heavily salted and sweet foods.
Yes.
So that's why we are pleased to be in the kitchen where we can cook something a little healthier. And if you want to take this idea and play with it, add a few raisins in there. I'd even experiment with a little bit of coconut, shredded coconut.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Anything just to sort of like play with this. This is a delicious dish. Are any comments coming through?
No. I'm listening to the singing now. Or the chanting.
I'll show you what I mean. So, just a moment. You see? A little bit of drumming going on. Can't see because of all the foliage. I love that, that's really nice. They are, and they're discovering themselves. They're finding themselves. It is quite nice. Sorry, a little bit of jumping around while I put you back onto the stand.
Plug you in before we sit down. Quite a party, said Eddie.
It is. There's about it's about 500 pesos a session. They've probably got about 8 to 10 people around there. They burn some different.
It smells quite nice.
It smells nice, yeah. They burn some woods and things and some leaves, and then you get inside, you crawl in. There was one the other day. There was 2 or 3 girls. Some of them were quite big. Some of them were quite large. They were all wearing sort of swimwear, and they have to crawl into the igloo. It's got like a little hole. So what? As they're crawling, it's quite the most ungainly thing, really, because as they're crawling in, everybody else is waiting to go in. So they've got this massive sort of backside, sort of almost plugging up the igloo entrance as they sort of crawl their way in, sit down inside, and then they burn some other bits and pieces, and they have a bit of, cleansing. I think it's quite spiritual.
Yeah, the first day we came here, there was one going on, and we sat very quietly and just watched, and absorbed it all as well.
We did. We were spiritually blessed.
But we find it funny.
Well, we did particularly when there's a guy out there in a loincloth, and his feather. He's got a feather in his hat. He arrives in his he arrives in his ute with his jeans and things, and suddenly he's got a loincloth and a feather in his hat, beating a drum, and then. And then they were all looking. The ones that helped, the other drum beaters, they're all sort of tanned, brown, skinny guys and girls who have, part of the Team Rocket that run the event. And then came the tourists. Some of the most sort of ungainly looking people that had come to find themselves, and it just sort of, I think it sort of changed our view on the whole the whole ceremony, as they sort of had to crawl through an igloo height. It's only maybe about 2'6".
It's very low.
High, and all the girls crawling.
Well, they have to first of all put their head onto the ground.
Oh yeah, they have to sort of.
And he obviously tells them that.
I think he's having a laugh. I think he's having a laugh because they're all wearing bikini bottoms, really.
Yes,
of.
sort of.
And they're, you know, they're all in bikinis, and they're all sort of like going down on their haunches, sort of like
The guys are all
to
in
kiss the
swimming
ground.
shorts.
Yeah, the guys are all in shorts, of course. So they're all sort of on the ground, sort of leaning down, kissing the ground, and then they're crawling through this little igloo to get inside. And it's all a bit sort of like, there's a whole crowd of people around them banging drums and things. There's a little bit too much chortling going on, I think, for my. So anyway, it's up to you. You go for it.
That's fine. Feral lady said pot just got legalised here in New Mexico, isn't it? We just read that as well.
Yeah, yes. Apparently, it's a bit ambiguous as to whether it is or not, and I think it's probably been pretty much readily available to most people in this part of Mexico anyway.
Yeah.
Not going to discuss that. I'm not going to get into that topic.
The Fifth Corner Records just said lol. Getting a bit more like a rhythm going now.
Here's my microphone. Hello, testing. Listen.
It goes on for about an hour, doesn't it?
Yeah.
About an hour.
Same guys,
Yep.
different tourists.
Different tourists. That's fine. Each to their own. It's just
Apparently, it's a really nice experience that Michelle and I won't be doing.
well, we did that with the top of the step. We just didn't have to go into the igloo. We had all the smoke and the drums and the chanting. You know, what else do we
We
do?
did, but I'm not sure we got the substance abuse. All right.
So Fifth Corner Record says the drumming sounded good though, haha. And Ella Miller says, thank you Steve and Michelle, very interesting video. Well, we've gone
from making eggplant and
salad.
mango salad, which is going cold now and isn't going to be anywhere.
Well, I've been eating mine.
Serve this while it's warm, because the heat from the actual eggplant just warms all the fruit
Yeah.
through it. It makes it delicious.
It's okay cold, I don't mind it cold.
I prefer it a little warm.
Well, you can pop it back in the pot.
Any questions, Michelle?
Not yet, no.
Okay.
I'm keeping up today. I'm not doing much else except for just sat here reading.
No. So, hit the thumbs up if you haven't already, for Michelle, not for me. Hit the thumbs down for me.
I like my thumbs up. Yeah, you can hit the thumbs down.
Hit the
It's
thumbs
all
down for
the
me.
same.
Doesn't make any difference. I've got my friend Scott, who does YouTube as well, always notices that stuff. Well, you can hit the thumbs up, the thumbs down for me. Whilst we're on the video, I always appreciate, thank you much for the thumbs up, but I never look. I couldn't tell you on any of our videos whether we've got thumbs up or thumbs down. I never look, so.
Interaction, whatever.
But I never look.
I know you don't.
So a lot of people get quite upset with the thumbs down. You can thumbs down it. Even my lovely friends that follow, you can thumbs down it if you want. I will never notice. I will never. Michelle might, and that's why I just say hit the thumbs up for Michelle. She notices those things. I never do. All right. So shall we?
We've just been over an hour. So we said about an hour.
Yeah, we're going to end this now. Did Ben come in?
He didn't. Where are you, Ben?
Well, Ben, who often pops in and moderates on the chat, he's out in Barbados, and they've just had a big storm. So we know he's safe. He dropped me a little message to say he was safe, but they've had a big storm over
Maybe
there.
he's got no electric.
Maybe he's got no electric.
We'll give you that out, Ben.
Yes.
You can go with that one.
Quick flick through, Michelle. Have we got any questions, unanswered
I
questions in
can't
there?
read that fast. Not when you're going like that.
All right. So I'm going to come round, grab my reading glasses, have a look on the phone to see if there's any questions before we head off. We're going to be moving in about 3 or 4 days to another town.
Have a good day.
We're going to be moving in the next few days to another town. I'll do a little video in here in Tulum so you can see what I mean by its touristic sort of nature. It's a lovely town, nothing wrong. If you want to get yourself over to a place like Tulum, go for it. I've been to many thousands of places like this in my life, many thousands of places like this, and I always like them. They're kind of cool, but you know, you've got to do it. If you've never been to any of these, it's a bit like Myrtle Beach a bit like Myrtle Beach up in the Carolinas. Is it South Carolina? Yeah. All right.
So there are some other videos before the Tulum one come out, but we'll get there, you know.
Yeah, well, I haven't made it yet. I haven't filmed the Tulum one yet.
That may be why.
I've got to get the Valladolid one
Valladolid.
up in the next few days, which was the town.
Yes,
All right.
So I'll see you, Michelle. Thank you for a wonderful life.
Love you
Great to
lots.
see you.
Take care, and we'll see you again shortly. Be good.
Bye.